I've shared many times on this channel about how my collecting, and in particular my personal collecting of Star Wars figures, is all about keeping the figures in a specific order. And I've been doing this since Chewbacca from the 1995 Power of the Force to Wave 1 figure, and so on. And I think a big part of that is because it's always given me a unique perspective on the line. All of the fan sites out there, and there's a lot of really great ones, mostly focus on photographing or showing off lines as segments, like, say, Power of the Jedi, the like year and a half, 2 years, when the figures were on these bright yellow-green cards. And there's obviously no lack of Star Wars documentaries out there, both about the movies and, honestly, quite frankly, there's a lot of documentaries just about collecting Star Wars toys. It's become that much of a phenomenon. And while some of them are better than others, I will say one thing that just doesn't get touched is really talking about all of the figures from the modern line in the exact order they came out. And that is exactly why we need to talk about a board game today. Oh, that was just such a transition, wasn't it? All right, so obviously, yes, lots of Star Wars board games over the years. There's been old ones, there's been new ones, there's been existing games that are just redressed as Star Wars, and there's been retro games that have come with retro figures. What a cool concept, right? Packing in an action figure with a board game? Well, it wasn't first done in the retro line. Nope, way back in Power of the Force 2. In about 1997-ish, we had the Escape from the Death Star game, which came packed with not one, but two exciting 3 and 3/4 Hasbro Kenner Star Wars action figures. So popping this bad boy open and looking inside, besides the game board and the pieces and all of that, you got a vacuum-sealed, backed little insert with two figures. So you can see them in the window here in the master carton. It was actually one of the more interesting Star Wars packages, and the reason is, obviously, it's great that you can see the figures inside the window. And as I noted with the AT-AT or AT-AT from a few episodes ago, there was some theft with taking the figures that were packed out inside of the package. Well, that's corrected here in a really interesting way, and thank you to Death Star Toys that I grabbed these images from. They had some great front and back, and that's what's important. So when you pulled out this sealed, carded figure set from the board game, if you flipped it around, the barcode on the back will scan for the whole board game set. So if you try to, let's say, take this out and just pay for these two figures, you wind up paying for the whole set. I thought that was actually a really ingenious way of solving it, of having the figures come on a card inside of the box. And speaking of inside the box, yes, you also get all these parts and these cool cardboard cutouts of other Star Wars figures. And why is that, you ask? Well, it's because one of the innovative things about this game, and there aren't that many, let's be fair, is that the tokens that move around the board were the size of 3 and 3/4 action figures, or at least they were standees, with the idea that you could replace them with actual figures, which is why it came with two figures, a Luke and a Darth Vader, because you can't go wrong when you have a Luke and a Darth Vader, and it's interesting that they managed to get unique versions of them, not just for the time, but for one of them, for the entirety of the 3 and 3/4 line. Craziness. All right, board games. Who knew? Now, for a lot of collectors, and myself included in this group, anything that comes with a figure tends to be the accessory, whether it's something like the gunner stations that came with different versions of Han, Luke, and Vader, slightly tweaked with different heads and different belts, etc., or that darn Naboo starship that you had to buy in order to get the cool red astromech droid. Well, whatever you were disregarding, that was the name of the game, and today was going to be more Death Star fun, because we were disregarding Escape from the Death Star game, which is not to be confused with the Destroy the Death Star game, also not to be confused with the other vintage Escape from the Death Star game, or the Lego set Escape from the Death Star, or the Kenner Hasbro set that we already did, Death Star Escape, or Luke Skywalker Death Star Escape from the Vintage Collection, which was also Death Star Escape Luke in the Black Series, although a very different Luke, and Death Star Escape Han from Power of the Jedi. The name tends to get used over and over again. Even Han got another go-around with Death Star Escape 25th Anniversary Pack, and don't forget the Detention Block Rescue, which isn't quite Death Star Escape, but close enough. All right, so back to the game. So here we have Luke and Vader squaring off in Death Star Escape with one of the more interesting color choices of a black handle with a blue blade. Yep, that was one thing that made this a bit of a different pack, was that the accessories that came with the figures, beyond getting their standard accessory, they got other things like Boba Fett's blaster and a stormtrooper gun and a blue blade Vader handle saber. So yeah, interesting, cool choices. Can't go wrong with extra accessories. So the Luke, previously released as a single in that previous image, but got a new head slapped on with slicked back hair from what's in the trash compactor, as well as, I guess you have to say, garbage specks or pieces of, well, I'm not going to say it, all over him. Now, this is a figure that did get redone once in a set of 2-packs that I think were Walmart exclusives, if memory serves. I'll get to them eventually on this station and on this playlist. But you got Chewie and the princess, then you got the 2 boys, and you put everything together. And not only did you get the garbage diorama, but you got the creature, or the Legomi, as my friend thought it said. And there you go. But this Luke, while he did have slicked in his face hair, this was kind of mid-throttle Luke, and it doesn't really work without the tentacle wrapped around him and him actually in the diorama. Same goes for pretty much all the figures with these sets. They were pretty much pre-posed to exactly be in this diorama trash compactor shot. The Luke we got with the board game, on the other hand, was sort of Luke in the whole second half of the trash compactor scene when his hair is slicked back after he's been taken sort of underwater. We've gotten this figure as a 12-inch before. Even Hasbro's done it as a 12-inch, as a sort of a new version of a stormtrooper with the Luke head, and even came with the tentacle. And as shown earlier, the Black Series Luke Death Star escape is actually this Luke, is him with slicked back hair from the trash compactor after he's been underwater. So yeah, this one with the board game is the only time we've gotten that. I mean, of course, we've gotten stranger things and stranger versions of Luke, and I can't wait to get to reviewing this one. It's one of my favorite pieces in the whole line. But this Luke, hey, throwing a new head, slick back hair, and some spots that represent, let's just go with dirty trash? Dirty sewer trash spots? All right, so Vader, on the other hand, next to him, see how that transition worked? So we've talked about a helmetless Vader before, and how in the vintage line it actually wound up being difficult because of just the dynamics of engineering and the way toys could work with plastic limitations. What can I say? But they've improved over time. And we've gotten Vader with removable helmets in many, many lines and many, many form factors. It's kind of become a standard now, and it's kind of funny looking back at the original line how there wasn't a removable helmet Vader, especially when he shows up in 3 3/4 every couple years. You basically get a reincarnation of this version of Vader, since hey, they can even break it down and do a 3-piece removable helmet. That was pretty impressive engineering there, Hasbro. Honestly, props for actually pulling that off. So this one, though, is our first 2-piece helmet. The previous version was a full helmet on-off. This is just the top part, the dome, which releases, and then you could see the inner mask, which does not come off. So this was a kit bash figure, or actually I would rather call it a refresh, where they took an existing body, in this case the Darth Vader with removable helmet from the main line, and they gave him a new head of just the dome being removed. Now, some people have pointed out that it's the same head used here in the Total Galaxy figure, but this figure, Total Galaxy, comes out later. It came out a few months later, so it first appeared in this pack. Maybe it just then got reused as Total Galaxy. So this seems like its premiere, and it commemorates this scene, obviously, when Vader had his helmet in Empire Strikes Back, as opposed to when he went full helmetless, faceless in Revenge of the Jedi, Return of the Jedi. Of course, I'm still waiting for this action figure to come out, but that's probably not going to happen. But as long as we get some more Sebastian Shaws instead of Hayden Christensen's, I'd be a happy camper.